Welcome back for the next class, guys. We are continuing with the next topic. Before we come to the next topic, just an overview of three schema architecture or what we have done in the previous class. So just to brush up, we started with data models, schemas, and instances, followed by various categories, followed by one example of a schema, and next we started with three schema architecture. Now in three schema architecture, as the name suggests, it has three three layers. The first layer is external schema or external view, followed by conceptual schema or conceptual level, followed by the physical level or the internal level or internal schema. So these three layers have their own models to represent their own structures. So one simple example we will consider and try to understand what are these three layers doing. So these three layers, just imagine we are trying to say access email. If we try to access email at the user's end or at the receiver's end or at the browser side, we try to give our credentials. Once our credentials are met, we observe that all the way data from the somewhere from the cloud or somewhere from the storage, the data arrives from all the way from data center. So maybe from data center or maybe from somewhere the cloud, the data is reaching to the client where the server provides all the details, right? So by server takes all the users credentials, check out with the users, then identify where exactly the data is present and correspondingly data retrieves. So these three layers help in MITS to give the data what is required for the user. So this is one example we can consider. To tell you more or on a specific example, let us take one simple example of okay, take one example of people visiting to hotels, right? So you guys been to hotels, right? So when you guys go to visit hotels, see what is the procedure over there. Can anybody just talk and share? See, I want to have the class in an interactive manner. So just type or just tell me what is the procedure when we start or when we walk through the hotel, what are the processes, right? So guys, just say something. What are the different processes when you visit hotel? Or what is the steps? Imagine you visit a hotel for lunch or dinner, you visit. So what is the procedure there? Yes, Amit?
Checking the menu card, sir. First.
Okay, first you visit, you find a specific place and you go through the menu, okay, or you rush to the kitchen, see what is available, you put onto your plate and come back and sit, or how it is?
No, sir. First we will sit on our particular place. Then we will check the menu card. We will
Okay,
select the particular items,
okay,
and we will tell the waiters. Waiters will bring the.
okay, yeah, okay, okay, Amit, thank you very much. So what about others? Others is the same procedure, or you have something else? You walk into a hotel or directly rush to the kitchen and just take whatever you want and come back and sit, or you eat in the kitchen and just go home. How it is? I don't know. Others, you don't want to involve in the class?
Same
Come and say
process.
something. Ashwini, you're speaking.
Same procedure, sir.
Same procedure. Very good. Okay. Everybody have same procedure or something else?
Same
Or
procedure.
you directly rush to the kitchen, take, eat there, sit there and come back, or how? Are you authorized to go into the kitchen and check what is preparing?
No, sir.
No. That means you are not the authorized person to go over there. You go to to a specific place, you sit, and you ask for the person to visit you, to ask you what you want to order for. The person arrives to take the order from you with the menu card, right? So he comes and asks you what you prefer. You go through the menu and say give a list, right? You order the item. He writes on the all your whatever orders you specify. Then he rushes to the kitchen and orders and brings accordingly whatever you ask for. Correct? See, rather he is not preparing the things. Try to understand. He just takes your order from you and passes it on to whom? He passes it to the the chef who actually prepares the data. Correct? Yes or no? Chef actually
Yes,
not
sir.
prepares the data, but he prepares the dish what you are asked for. How he prepares? Will he come out from the kitchen and look into, or he just have all the materials with him? So now think these are three different layers, correct? You are at one user end setting. The person coming to you feel like a middleware taking your request, and see, you cannot bypass to the chef. There is some specific procedure. So you come and sit in a table and you ask for the person to give you the menu card. You select your item, then the person takes your order and rushes to the kitchen. There he gives an order to the chef to prepare the dishes what you have ordered for. Correspondingly, when chef prepares and sends, and that is where you receive the order. Either you're not bringing them, someone else is bringing and giving you, right? Now, same architecture is your three-tier architecture. Yes, you can just imagine what is this procedure goes in and around our daily lives. It is similar kind of thing what we observe in three-tier architecture. So user sits at one end, server asks, what do you want for? Server, you say, you will say what type of data you require. You just give the order. That request is being extracted by a server, and server or middleware goes to the data tier, asks for the data, and data brings back in what fashion it is required for the user that is being transformed. You guys understanding? So this is the special type of the architecture what we are observing. Okay, so the three schema architecture, any more doubts? You can just pose the some other example also, or just think of one more example. Uh, okay, one more example I can quote on. You see, think of the examples which are at the using on our daily life, day-to-day lives. So one more movie theme. You watch movies, right, in theaters. So you imagine like that. You go to the specific movie and sit. Your intention is just to watch movie. You do not know what is happening in the operator room. You don't worry that how the architecture of the room is or how the sound system is. You're not worried about all that. But your intention is to receive the picture quality and the sound quality should be pretty good, right? In the operator room, what's going on, how the operators roles in the theaters, and how he places or how he syncs the different I mean, there are some different processes going on inside the say operator room, right? So all those things will be happening at one end. You are not worried about that. You are just worried to see the movie in a right manner. So this is all about your three schema architecture. Any clarifications before we go ahead, or any doubts? Anybody have any doubts? Any clarifications? No or yes? Shall I go ahead? Still the strength is just 33 out of 66, exactly half the number. I don't know where the rest half is. Okay, let us not waste our time. So next, see, one part of three schema architecture is data independence. The meaning of data independence is if you try to update or do some alterations anywhere, the other system should not get affected. So the data independence says it is the capacity to change the schema at one level of a database system without having to change the schema at the next higher level. So the meaning is very simple. See, if you have changed any particular level, maybe internal schema you changed, or conceptual schema you changed, or external level you changed, one layer should not affect the other. Right. So one level should not affect the other. That is how the concept is saying data independence should achieve. So if you change your one browser to the other browser, the data should get unaffected. If you change from one system to the other system, or if you change the storage system, your completely the other layer should be unaffected. That is the meaning of data independence. Again, there are two different versions. One is logical data independence and physical data independence. So logical data independence says that logically your data should be independent. Logical in the sense any structures you change, like the structure of your database you change, or any other content you change, it should not be affected with the other parts of or other layers. So physical data independence is with respect to the storage. If you try to storage or alter the storage levels, the other two levels should be unaffected. So in midst of each these layers, you have a proper mapping between the one mapping between is external and conceptual. The other mapping is between conceptual and internal. So in other words, to say the system should be properly mapped or coupled, right? So normally we see our systems are properly mapped. Mapped in the sense we give it input one side, we receive output on the other device. That means all the devices are in proper synchronization. So synchronization or coupling, they all mean to say for hardware devices, but when it comes to software, it's purely the word called as mapping. So it is the alignment or say alignment of specific say one from one thing to the other. One example to quote, you try to watch a kind of image in your mobile phone and your say laptop or a desktop. The image size is same, but it looks different. There is difference in your when you look to a same image in PC or same image in your mobile phone. The thing happens behind is there is a fixed screen resolution in your mobile phone. Also in your PC there is a fixed resolution. Resolution means it is the size of your display, the arrangement of pixels in left hand side, and row wise and column wise is your screen resolutions. So your image will map or align in the form of one after the other. It will form an alignment between the screen resolution and the picture size accordingly. So corresponding left hand side pixel data will go and sit in left hand side. So on it will submerge with that display. Okay, so it do happens in the same manner. If your same image you are viewing through your PC, based on your resolution of your PC, your image will go and map. Okay, similarly, your any kind of device you observe, any kind of display you have, your data will go and map accordingly. Okay, that is the meaning of mapping. So when you take one system, actually these are different layers, which actually they are independent, but when you bring them in forth, all will be mapped correspondingly. Right, so we are sitting at one end of the globe and we are trying to access the emails which are stored somewhere in the other part of the globe. Still there are n number of servers in between, n number of components in between, n number of functionality running, but still you get your data in more reliable manner. So that all happens only with the proper mapping. So one simple example, one simple question I want to ask you guys. So how many of you are aware that when you ask for one page of data to be displayed, maybe from Google or any other, say web sources, at the midst to give you service, how many servers will have an interaction at the backend? I repeat my question again. Yes, Amit, you're answering? I hope I
Many
have asked
servers,
this.
sir.
Sorry?
Many servers, sir.
Yeah, of course, many. I do agree there are many, but can you just give me the approx number? Maybe in your Google, you are just browsing, you get a n number of requests, and you start working, but there should be some specific number where so many servers in turn will sit and interact and give you service for your request. Any specific number, guys? Anybody have the number in your mind? Or just throw me one number.
2000.
Who is that? 2000. I heard some new voice. It is Ayush.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Others, it's pretty high number what you told. Okay, I appreciate you answered. Others,
The 990.
you're almost nearer to the answer. Make it round figure. That is the correct answer. Anybody want to say something? At least so many require to give you service. Priyanka, you're saying something? I see so many students in the class, they are not, I don't know, they are what they're doing. You should give some kind of response. I find most of the people are there virtually connected, but I don't know where they are exactly. Yes, the correct answer is almost 1,000 servers coming to picture to give you service. Okay, so you can imagine how many servers are deployed to ask for your request. Okay, so any clarifications before we go ahead? Any doubts, any clarifications? There are so many people in the class, 37 students. Everybody are there. Just on your microphone, say unmute and say yes sir, and just get back. At least I can say these many are available in room.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes.
Half of the students are in a yawning state. I can make out that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, very good. Now, now I will change my plan slowly. From after this class, you will have to give your attendance whenever I ask. Maybe 2 times or 3 times, I don't know. Based on your interaction, only your attendance will be given. I have to make you keep you alive also, right? So these students are still there. I don't know, they are not responding. I think some 15 to 20 students responded, but still half of the class is not joined initially. Half class has joined, and I don't know where they are, and half are responding, and some are responding in a very late manner. I don't know they have heard it or no. Let me see. Okay, so you guys, everybody can see the presentation has been loaded in the Teams portal. It has been loaded. You can just use it for your purpose. And also the first assignment was also been floated for pre-survey. Shortly another assignment will be loaded. Okay, so you guys keep on responding. Guys who have not responded, make sure that you do it at the earliest. So the deadline was a 5th, so definitely the deadline is far. So I need to I will change the deadline so that you guys can submit the first assignment at the earliest pre-survey, right? So next is very important system environment, or it is the components of database system. So the whole database system is being compact and given in the form of this diagram. Okay, so it comprises of the whole data models. It comprises of the whole database systems with this one diagram. Okay, so sorry for that. Okay, now what we see in this diagram, there are so many things in this diagram. Try to understand. This is sometimes it is called as database system environment. It is also database system components, or some people even say they are different components of database systems. So just observe, at the low level it is storage device. At the top end there are different number of users. So when I say users, there are specific type of users. See here, you will see only users with respect to actors on the scene, not workers behind the scene. Okay, you will see only a type of people who all are database administrator, parametric or naive users, casual end users, or application programmers. Okay, you will not see the people working with respect to software. So workers behind the scene are nowhere connected for this slide. So these are the people who are working with the software. Now, when you look to this particular diagram, try to understand there are certain different types of commands. There are a set of commands like DDL commands, privileged commands, DML commands. Okay, so all DDL commands are directly reflected to system catalog or data dictionary. In order to access certain privileged commands will be run as a different set. So DDL statements, DDL compiler, DDL statements, data definition language statements. So these are the type of commands which you try to create the say structure of a database, or when you want to create one database, or when you try to want to alter the database, we go with DDL command. So DDL command, when you type it, the compiler should verify the correctness of that command, of that command, then followed by, if it is successful, then the information is written or stored in the system catalog or data dictionary. There are different privileged commands like giving rights for a specific user. All such users will be given as a privileged commands. Like in our lab, what we do is we try to create users and try to assign the privileges for each type of user. Only when the privileges are been given, you will start accessing the database. Okay, so there are different set of commands. Giving any privileges are always called as privileged commands. Like creating user, only administrator has the privilege to create the users. So once the user is created, the resources are allocated to the users. Different types of privileges can be assigned for each type of user. So such are all called as privileged commands. Next is casual end users. Same interactive query compiler, query optimizer, runtime database processor. So first see, interactive query, in the sense it is a particular place where you try to enter the query. Once the query is written, you are directly communicating to a database directly from SQL prompt only, or from database only you are trying to access your data. So you have a specific type of query, interactive query, they all fall in DML type of commands. So in DML command, you type the command, the query, the compiler checks out the query, and followingly to execute the command in a quicker manner, query optimizer creates a kind of optimizing your query so that your data receives in a faster manner or executes in a faster manner. In order to reduce the execution time, query optimizer runs your query in such a way that the query will take little time to execute. So don't worry about query optimization. Query optimization is out of your scope. Your writing correct queries is your task. But when it comes to your efficiency part of your system, you should optimize your queries also. Slowly, when we graduate with the subject, I will tell you how query optimization plays, or how exactly we can work with query optimization techniques. Okay, but you don't worry about these things. You have one place where you are typing the query. Once you type the query, it's like a simple program, and once a program is written, that program has to be properly compiled to check the errors. Once the errors are not there, optimization takes place, and correspondingly execution happens. Now suppose if you are trying to execute the same query from outside databases in the form of an application, they execute in the form of application programmers. So your query will not be exactly as a query. Your query will take the shape of a transaction. Your query will take the shape of a transaction. Now, I'm trying to give you a simple examples like imagine I am trying to extract my databases using Java or C or .NET, any other programming language. So when I say other programming language also has a compiler. Now, if I write my so if I want to extract some data from C language, just imagine like that. I want to execute my query using C language. Remember, in databases and C language, there is a huge difference. Huge difference because in databases, I don't have variables. Okay, in databases, I have attributes. I have entities, attributes. In C language, I have variables. Okay, now what we do is we take these variables and convert them as attributes inside the SQL query. So I write SQL query inside a C program. I repeat again, I will try to write a C program. Inside the C program, I will write SQL command. Now, inside SQL command, what we write, they all are part of SQL. Outside SQL, whatever I write, they all belong to C language. So the whole thing is C language, but C language should convert that request, will go and fire fire to my database server. From database server, it goes to the data, fetches the data, and comes back and give me result in C only. See how this is. I repeat again what is happening. I try to type a program. In the program, I will write one SQL query. So inside SQL query, in the query, I will send to execute the database. So what happens? My one compiler will execute the program, or will compile the program. So application program will have one compiler. That compiler is host language compiler. So whichever language I am trying to execute, C language if I consider, that is my host language. If I take Java as my, through Java I'm trying to execute database, in the sense Java becomes my host language. If I take .NET as the program through which I'm trying to execute SQL, means my .NET becomes host language compiler. So any host language I consider, the host language also has one compiler. So compiler will check the flow of the program and check for the errors. Similarly, there is one special syntax for SQL to write in any host language. If I am writing SQL inside C, there is one specific syntax. If I am writing SQL inside a Java code, the syntax is different. Likewise, it differs with respect to what particular language I am trying to use. That language becomes host language. And the compiler for the host language is called as host language compiler. So SQL commands all will have a specific syntax that has to be compiled. Okay, so when that compiled, after compiled, they will convert from query to transaction. I cannot execute as directly as a query. I need to send through as a form of a transaction. Why? Because I am trying to access my SQL from outside the databases. I am trying to access my database from outside databases. Okay, so if I want to come from outside, I need special permissions. Special permissions like the credentials of the specific user. Through which user I am trying to connect? Through a specific name, I will connect to my database. I will perform the query, then I will release the connection. So to complete that whole thing is in the form of a transaction. It is not just a simple query. Executing query should be in the form of a transaction. So my query will take the shape of a transaction. Okay, so it is the normal execution of query only if I am executing in my directly from database. If I am executing the same query from outside database, it should be through a specific transaction. Okay, so whenever I'm trying to use such kind of say querying part, always it is a DML statement, data manipulation language statement. Okay, all the commands which are written just to query are all DML statements. So DML statements also have to be compiled properly. So DML compiler will take care of that. So host language compiler, host whichever language I'm using, that language also has one compiler. That query will take the shape of transaction. That transaction will run through a DML compiler, and that is executed through a runtime database processor. So if I'm using a parametric user, in the sense, who is a parametric user? A parametric user is a person who is already aware of the system. Like if you visit a bank, the employee is completely aware of the working procedure of the application. So he is the person who is authorized to use the system. Okay, banking application system, he is the well-versed person. So such type of users are called as parametric users. So whatever transactions he is doing, no doubt he is every time connecting to the database only, but he is connecting with he's connecting in the form of transactions only. So nowadays we are executing everything from outside SQL or from outside databases. So we say all queries are in the form of transactions. Okay, any more doubts before we go ahead? So finally, I have runtime database processor which executes all the tasks, and two special components are attached in our databases is concurrency control, backup and recovery subsystems, stored data manager. These two components are left out. Concurrency means simultaneous execution. Simultaneous execution, why we require is just to boost the performance of the system. I want to increase the execution speed of the system. So we run the transactions in a concurrent manner. Concurrency means execution in a simultaneous mode. Now, when I am doing so, concurrent execution, when I'm trying to do so, I need to see that my transactions are secured, and we should see that my data always leads to a consistent state. My data always should reach to a consistent state. Couple of minutes I'll spend on these two with a simple example. Imagine I am trying to, two people are trying to book a ticket for different trains. Correct? Imagine two people trying to book a train ticket and for different trains on different days. So two people can simultaneously execute because absolutely there will not be any problem. When there will be problem and two guys are trying to book same train on a same day of a same class, only then the problem arrives. If two people are trying to access same train, same date, but different classes, then obviously two will be different. But if everything is same, then concurrency may not possible, and we should see that a proper locks should be implemented so that data should not lead to inconsistent state, or data should not be read in a wrong way, or data should not be written in a wrong way. Okay, so there are some different properties which we need to understand when we study about these concurrency or recovery techniques. So if at all, what happens if there is any problem while executing the data, there are chances that power may fail, or any catastrophic failure when it matters. Our system should always reach to a consistent state. So even if in certain cases data may lose, data may reach to a inconsistent state, wherein in such cases the recovery system will take care of bringing back the data to a consistent state. So it is the job of the recovery manager to take care of the task to lead or to reach the data to a specific consistent state. So to play with all these, data manager will come into picture. Say data is if data is stored properly, every time the data has to be bought in a specified manner or in a specific manner, all that is taken care by stored data manager. So data managing also will be a pretty tedious task. Every time you ask for some data, that data should give you the consistent data and so on. So that is about your recovery subsystems. Even in certain cases, the data is lost. Data should be extracted in such a way that your data should always reach to a consistent state. Okay, one example, I just told you about the execution of two people, or reservation of two people, right? Two people trying to book a train ticket on a same day of a same train for the same class, then it has to happen in the form of one and the other. One completes, the other should wait, or before it should not be like both should be given simultaneous access. Simultaneous access will not be possible, because when someone is updating the data, the other one might have read wrong data, so that will again lead to a problem. To subsidize that, we introduced locks. So when one acquires a lock, the other should wait for its release. Once the person completes the transaction and releases the lock, the other one can acquire the lock and complete his task. That is how we can plan. All that will come in recovery and the locks topic. So concurrency, backup, recovery, and all these things. So any more doubts in this? Any of the points are left out, or all are done? Yes. Any doubts before we go ahead? Yes. Any doubts? Yes. Any doubts before we go ahead? No
No,
doubts?
sir.
No,
No?
sir.
No, sir.
No.
No?
No, sir.
Okay. So you guys have came across this, right? This is The whole architecture, see, architecture is different. Please don't mix both of them. Some students are talking, if somebody asks the system environment or system components, they write three scheme architecture. You say three scheme architecture or just architecture, or say three tier architecture or database architecture. It's always three scheme architecture. This is a system environment or component modules or system components. Anyone saying, you have to write only this. People getting confused, I have seen, but you guys don't get confused. All right. So all the things are covered in this. Check out anything is missing. Query and transaction. Okay, all are covered. Any doubts you have before we go ahead?
No, sir.
No doubts.
No,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. So I'm not wrapping this, just a kind of recall what we have done in the, just what we started in these. Actually, I was supposed to complete here, but we have taken a bit longer time to complete so far, no problem. So to continue with that, so any doubts in these topics? Okay, so today we talked about all these topics. Yes, somebody wants to say something? Somebody have had unmute. You guys want to say something? No? No? Okay. Okay, now. Now becomes the actual story begins. Like now we start, after knowing all these things, we start with what is an entity. We now start trying to understand how we can build one application. So when we want to build one application, we need to know what are the different entities, entity types, entity sets, attributes, and keys. When we try to know all of these, then we try to know different types of relationships. Relationship types. Then how do we try to incorporate them in our applications? So as I said, what is an entity? An entity is a real world existing thing. Anything existing in the real world is called as entity. Okay, so here you have ER diagram. Okay, ER diagram is here. No. Okay, you have something called as ER diagram, which says entity relation model. ER diagram, entity relational model diagram. So you try to perform the different entities, different attributes, and their relationships. That ER diagram gives you the broader picture of all the relationships and how the specific design of an application is, you can observe. Okay, so once we start with the from the scratch, we will identify different types of entities. Meaning what entities means? Entity is something which is from the real world. So in the previous example, I talked about a student, right? So student is one entity. So why entity? In this real world, students is existing. So I will consider student is one entity or student is one existing component. If same way I can take, say, grade is also one entity which is existing. I can even say some other example like library as one entity, bank is one entity, university is one entity, books is one entity, so on and so forth. I can take n number of examples. So you try to understand in simple words what is an entity. Entity always means a real world existing thing. When we are trying to build the applications, we should start from scratch thinking about something. So I want to build one application for students. So I will consider student entity. Okay, so from this whole world, when I want to talk about only student, I will shift my the whole world to mini world. In mini world, I will only think about student. Understand it? So entity describes what? Entities is a real world component. What is an attribute? An attribute is some property which is describing about the entity. Okay, I repeat again. Attribute is some property describing about the entity. Now, morning I have gave you some example, right? Okay, let me go to so some whiteboard. So morning I told you the example of a student, right? So in student, I take the example of USN. I take the example of name. So what these do, these are some properties which are describing about the entity. Now my entity is student. In student, what is name? Name is something which is telling about the student. USN is something which is telling about the student. Same way, if I try to take semester, it means semester is some attribute which is describing about the student. So I will have n number of attributes here, which all are describing one or the other component of the entity. And each individual value, if I take of student, USN, name, semester, they all called as one record. Okay, I term to say it is one record. Okay, in technical words, we call that as a tuple, but let us not go to that word as of now. A tuple means it is one row. Row or record or tuple, they are one and the same. When I say one row, it is the complete set of one row. One student name, when I have n number of attributes. Imagine I have 4 attributes here. If I try to have one value of all, say 1, 2, 3 is my USN, ABC is my name, semester has 5, so ABC male. ABC male, imagine this is my first record in my table. So this whole thing is called as a tuple or a record or one row. Okay, you guys understood what I mean by row now? So now why we start with entity? Why don't we call direct as a table? See, we are trying to consider something which is from real world. So something which is real world is what? An entity. From that entity, we try to describe some component of that entity and call that as attribute. Now this attribute should be of what? Should be of a specific domain, as I said in the morning. Remember. So what is a domain? Domain is the data type followed with a specific size. So whatever attributes we trying to consider for a student, all the attributes should be of a specific domain following some constraint. Following some constraint means unique. Now USN should be unique. No students USN should repeat. Name shall repeat. Everybody should have a name. Everybody must study in semester. Everybody should have an email, a unique email. If I say that, they all become as one or the other constraints. Now, what does ER model comprises of? ER model represents the structure of your data pictorially. Schema diagram is different, ER diagram is different. Okay, so ER diagram, we will give you the exact relationship in what way, how the and entities are related and how the attributes are defined in one manner. All that we will understand in ER model. So that is called a ER diagram. So it holds entities, relationships, and attributes. So what are attributes now? Attributes are some properties which are describing about the entity. All right. So there are different types of attributes. So composite versus simple attribute, single word valued versus multiple attributes, stored versus derived values, null values, complex attributes. These are different types. Any more doubts you have before I go ahead? So 38 students are there. Any more doubts? Yes?
No, sir.
Doubts?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I feel you are responding. Thank you very much. I feel so great that you guys are responding. Okay, my intention of making you, asking you each and everything is my words should not go in vain. That's it. That's only one intention, all right? Okay, here I am. Different types of attributes you have. Now, what is this different types of attributes? Don't worry, just simple it is. Now, see composite and simple. Simple means, okay, let me take this, wipe out everything. Say in student, every time I take one example because that will give you a clear picture. So USN is one attribute, name is one attribute. Now, according to me, this is simple attribute. Now, name is a composite attribute. Now, how you mean to say that is simple, how it is composite? Can anybody say something?
No, sir.
You cannot say?
So name contains first name, middle name,
Very
and
good. Very good. Very good. I don't know who is that. I really appreciate. Who's that? Just give you a name, ma.
so Gayatri.
Gayatri. Very good. Very good. I appreciate that. See, when I say name, name again can be divided as first name, middle initial, or last name, or anything else. The attribute which can derive to sub attributes is called as a composite attribute. Simple attribute which cannot be divided, that is called as a simple attribute. Right. Next, one more is stored and derived. Stored and derived. Okay. Now, stored and derived. Okay. It's taking so much time. Okay, stored and derived. So when I say stored, how do we represent stored? Stored value should give me some value which is derived. Now, one simple say, I will try to store my value called as date of birth. Through date of birth, I will try to find out age. Understanding? Remember, this will change, this will not change. Yes, am I correct? Knowing the value is stored and trying to derive the value of a particular person. So date of birth will be remain same, age keeps on changing. So what we do, we try to derive age from date of birth. Okay, so stored value will be my date of birth. Through stored date of birth, I will try to define age. Okay, you understood? That is the meaning of stored and derived. Okay, Next is single valued and multi-valued. So single value and multi-valued. Okay, single value and multi-valued. Okay, so bank name is single, but it has multiple branches. Correct? Bank name, for example, if I take SBI is only one bank, or corporation bank, or any bank that matter, say syndicate, any bank if I ask that matter, their banks are one, but they have multiple branches. Okay, single value in the sense, if I take USN, for example, in student application, I have only one single value. I cannot take multiple values there. Okay, for example, I can also give some multi-valued like color of a car colors, model may be same, model may be one, but color may be different. They all fall in single value and multi-valued attributes. Okay, one more thing. Each branch, when I say address, do you know what is address is of what type? Address is of what type? Address is also a complex attribute, composite attribute, not complex, composite attribute. I can call it as complex, but rather it is a composite attribute. Now address will have what? Street name, area, city, and pin, so on. So what I say, address is what? Address is a composite attribute. Okay. Now I will make this composite as a complex attribute. How? I will take branch of a bank. I will take branches. So each branch has, when I say branches, multi-valued branches, multiple branches of one bank. Okay, multiple branches of one bank, and one branch has address. That means I have multiple branches. That means multiple addresses I have. Okay, and each address is again represented by street name, area, city, pin, and so on. Are you understanding? Are you understanding? So I will write one address in the form of like this, and I will have multiple values for. Okay, so bank branch has n number of addresses. So I will try to write like this: address 1. I will close this. I will open one more. Say address 2, so on. That means what? This representation is complex valued attribute. Okay, this is the meaning of complex attribute. So I will close this. Okay, understood? So I will, each address will have a composite attributes, and composite attributes you club all together as one, having different values, say multiple values. So multiple values, multiple composite, so that becomes a huge complex. So in general words, it is called as a complex attribute. And finally, I have called as null values. Null values, null, N-U-L-L, null. Null values. Okay, null values has specific meaning in databases. So, now, what do you mean by null values? Null means there are specific different meanings. Okay, for example, what will I will write for a person with illiterate in terms of qualification. Yes, for an illiterate person, what do I write for qualification? I will write null. Okay, for a person having imagine a person does not have an email. What if a person does not has email? So you can write null. Okay, some people do not know their date of birth. You know, some when you trace back some years back or 2 generations back, people do not remember their date of birth. So value is present but unknown, correct? So on all these cases, you write the value for a particular attribute as null attribute, null valued attribute. So we cannot write only null everywhere. Try to minimize nulls in our data. If at all you're writing null, have a specific reason why you're writing null values. The specific reasons are this. Qualification for illiterate does not apply. Email is not existing, so write null. That value is absent but known. On some special reasons, you can write null values. Please do not write null values unless it is required. Okay, understanding? So null values, normally we have null value as a default value. So if you do not have any constraint for any attribute, it do takes null value. But see that you try to minimize null values as far as possible. Okay. One more thing as a key attribute. Key attribute is not written. I don't know. In the slide, is it there or no? I don't know. Okay. Okay, key attribute is the next one to take. No problem. Let me finish this and close. Attribute, key attribute. Key attribute something like USN in the student. Now, what is a key? Through this, we are trying to identify other attributes. Now, key, can you imagine? Key attribute in the sense USN. Through this USN, I will try to identify all the attributes of, or uniquely I can identify one student. Okay, through imagine if you forget your home keys, what will happen? You cannot enter your room. You cannot enter your home. Same way, to enter any into a specific data or to identify a specific data, we use the concept of key attributes. So USN will make it as a key attribute in student table. Okay. So key attributes are required in order to identify the other attributes and also to perform relationships and also to identify all their attributes. Okay, this key attributes are called as sometimes it is called as say indexed keys, index keys. Okay, we will understand more clearly about them in the coming topics, don't worry. All right, so in attributes, you have one more attribute or type attribute called as key attribute. Okay, so in the next class, we will try to understand entity types and some initial design of databases and relationships. Okay, so before I close, just hang on. Anybody have any doubts before we close? Yes? Any doubts you have, we can just...
No, sir.
No doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, shall we close?
Sir.
Okay, yeah, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. We'll continue in the next class.
Thank you, sir.